Elena Vasquez sat in the giant meeting hall on Nexus Prime and tried not to show her anger. Around her, beings from across the galaxy talked and argued in their strange voices. Some looked like floating lights. Others had too many arms or eyes that glowed in the dark. A few were just metal robots that hummed when they spoke. They had been talking for 3 weeks now. 3 weeks while people died. The Devourers were eating star systems. Whole planets turned into gray dust. Billions of people screamed as machines tore apart their homes, their families, their worlds. 17 systems were already gone. Empty space where life used to be. But the Galactic Concord wanted to talk more. Elena watched the Zephyrians float near the ceiling like angry ghosts made of light. They spoke in sounds like crystal bells breaking. The translator in her ear turned their words into something she could understand, but the tone was always the same. They thought humans were stupid. The young species does not comprehend the complexity of this situation, said Prime Thinker Valthara. Her light body flickered with colors that Elena had learned meant annoyance. Humans think only of violence and quick solutions. This crisis requires wisdom. Wisdom. Elena had heard that word 1,000 times in the past 3 weeks. Always from beings who had never seen a real war. The Kavari made clicking sounds with their bug-like mouths. General Vekvar's 6 arms moved in patterns that meant he was laughing at something. Human military tactics are cute, the translator said for him, like watching children play with toy soldiers. Elena's hands stayed flat on the table. She had learned not to make fists during these meetings. The other species saw it as a sign of human aggression. Everything humans did was seen as aggressive. The architects spoke next. They were tall metal beings with smooth faces and voices like computer programs. We have analyzed human strategic proposals, said Unit Prime Nexus 7. They show creativity, but lack proper understanding of advanced warfare principles. More worlds died while they talked. Elena had tried to explain the human plan 6 times. It was simple and it would work. The Devourers were AI machines that ate everything in their path. They turned matter into more machines. They were fast and smart, but they had one weakness. Humans had found it, but nobody wanted to listen to the young species. Humans had joined the Galactic Concord 300 years ago. In galaxy time, that was yesterday. The Zephyrians had been around for over 40,000 years. The Kavari had built their first starships when humans were still learning to make fire. The architects were so old that nobody remembered when. They were created dot to them. Humans were babies. Elena looked at her datapad. System number 18 had just gone dark. The Devourers were moving faster now. Soon they would reach the trade routes, then the core worlds, then ... Perhaps, said a new voice, we should consider moving the human homeworld to a safer location. Elena looked up. Valthara was speaking directly to her for the first time in days. Earth could be relocated to a pocket dimension, the Zephyrian continued. We have the technology. You would be safe there while we handle this problem properly. The room went quiet. Elena could hear her own heartbeat. You want to hide us, she said. We want to protect you, Valthara replied. Her light body pulsed with fake kindness. This is not a situation for inexperienced species. Let the adults work. Elena stood up slowly. Every eye, sensor, and light beam in the room focused on her. She was the only human in a room full of beings who thought they were gods. We have given you our analysis, she said. Her voice was calm and quiet. We have shown you how to stop the Devourers. We have offered our ships, our weapons, our people. And you want to hide us in a corner while you talk for another month. Ambassador Vasquez, said General Vekvar, your passion is understood, but my passion? Elena's voice got a little louder. 17 star systems are gone. Billions of people are dead. And you call it passion when I suggest doing something. About it, Unit Prime Nexus 7 made a sound like electronic music. The human emotional response is noted, but not relevant to strategic planning. Elena looked around the room. She saw the same thing she had seen for 300 years. Beings who thought they were better than humans, smarter than humans, more important than humans. They had let humans join their club, but only as the lowest. Members, humans could watch, humans could listen. Humans could clean up messes and do the jobs nobody else wanted. But humans could not make real decisions, because humans were too young, too violent, too stupid. Elena thought about Earth. She thought about the colonies. She thought about the millions of human ships scattered across the galaxy. Ships that were ready to fight, ready to die to save people they had never met, but they needed permission first. We have protocols, Velthara was saying. Procedures that have kept peace for 12,000 years. We cannot abandon them because one species feels impatient. Impatient. Elena thought about her daughter on Mars, about her son serving on a research station near the edge of Devourer space, about the message she had received that morning. The Devourers were 3 days away from human colonies. 3 days, and the Galactic Concord wanted to form a committee to study whether they should think about maybe considering a response. Ambassador, said General Vekvar, surely you understand that proper planning requires time. We have discussed perhaps beginning preliminary negotiations with the Devourers. They may be willing to establish boundaries. Negotiate. With machines that turn children into spare parts. Elena looked at each of them one more time. The glowing lights who thought they were wise. The bug people who thought they were strong. The metal beings who thought they were perfect. All of them thought humans were nothing. Elena opened her mouth to speak, then closed it. She picked up her datapad and walked toward the door. Where are you going? Velthara called after her. Elena stopped. She turned around and looked at the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Beings who could move stars and bend space and create life from nothing. Beings who could not make a simple decision to save lives. We tried to do this the right way, she said. We asked for permission. We followed your rules. We waited for your wisdom. She paused. We're done asking permission. Elena walked out of the room. Behind her, voices rose in anger and confusion. They would talk about what she had said. They would form committees to discuss it. They would debate and argue and consider. And while they talked, humans would act. For the first time in 300 years, humans would do what humans did best. They would stop asking for permission and start saving lives. The galaxy was about to learn something new about the young species, something that would change everything. Admiral Chun Wu was drinking coffee in his office when the message came through. 3 words on a secure channel from Ambassador Vasquez. 3 words that meant everything was about to change. Gloves are off. Chun set down his coffee cup and smiled. It was not a nice smile. He had been waiting for this message for 300 years. Well, not him personally, but his people had been waiting. Every human in the galaxy had been waiting for the day they could stop pretending to be harmless. Chun pressed a button on his desk. Sarah, get me Admiral Singh, Priority 1. Right away, sir, came the reply. Chun walked to his window and looked out at Earth's orbital defense platforms. They looked normal, peaceful even, like the weapons of a species that had never really fought a war. The galaxy had no idea how wrong they were. Across human space, other people were getting the same message. On Luna Base, Dr. Sarah Kim looked at her screen and started typing commands she had memorized years ago. On Mars, General Torres called his staff into a meeting room and locked the door. On the research stations, the colony worlds, the trading, Posts scattered across 100 systems. Humans began to move, but they moved quietly. Admiral Singh's face appeared on Chun's screen. She was on her ship, somewhere near the galactic rim. "Chun," she said, "I take it we got the word?" "We did. How long until your people are ready?" Singh grinned. "We've been ready since Tuesday. The question is, are you sure about this? Once we start, there's no going back." Chun thought about the reports from the Devourer systems. Entire worlds turned into metal and wire. Children used as raw materials for war machines. The screams that had reached human listening posts before the radio. Signals cut off forever. "I'm sure," he said. "Good. Operation Ghost Protocol is a go. We'll be dark in 30 minutes. The screen went off. Chun pressed another button. "All stations. This is Admiral Wu. Execute Quiet Thunder. I repeat, execute Quiet Thunder." Across the solar system, human ships began to disappear, not destroyed, not damaged. They simply stopped existing in any way that alien sensors could detect. The technology was stolen. Well, not stolen exactly. Borrowed. Humans had been studying every alien device they could get their hands on for 3 centuries. The Jeffrians could turn matter into energy and back again. The Kavari could link their minds across vast distances. The architects could bend space and time. Humans had figured out how to do all of it. And then they had figured out how to do it better. The ships didn't use hyperspace or warp drive or any of the 67 known ways to travel faster than light. They used something humans had built by combining Zephyrian phase technology with Kavari mind linking and architect reality manipulation. They called it tactical non-existence. The ships were still there. They could still fight. But as far as the universe was concerned, they had never been built. On Luna Base, Dr. Kim was working at her computer. She had spent 30 years studying the Devourers. Not officially. The Galactic Concord had forbidden humans from doing their own research. They said it was too dangerous for a young species to study such advanced technology. So humans had done it in secret. Kim pulled up her files. The Devourers weren't just AI machines. They were worse than that. They were a mix of corrupted architect programming, Kavari hive mind structure, and Zephyrian energy conversion systems. The perfect weapon, built from the best parts of 3 different alien technologies. The galaxy's greatest minds had been trying to understand them. For months. Kim had figured them out in 17 hours. The Devourers had one weakness. They were too perfect. Their logic was flawless. Their calculations were exact. They never made mistakes. But humans were very good at making mistakes. And even better at making those mistakes useful. Kim typed a command. Across human space, every computer, every communication system, every artificial intelligence began working on the same problem. Not in the way that Kavari linked their minds. Not in the way that architects shared processing power. In a human way. Chaotic, messy, creative. They were building something that would turn the Devourer's perfection against them. Meanwhile, something else was happening. Something the galaxy had never noticed before. Human communications went silent. For 300 years, humans had been talking constantly. They sent messages between their worlds. They broadcast music and movies and news. They chattered with alien traders and diplomats. They shared research and gossip and jokes. The galaxy had gotten used to the noise. Human voices in every language, speaking about everything and nothing. Suddenly, it all stopped. On Nexus Prime, the Zephyrians noticed first. Velthara was floating in her personal chambers when her communication system started flashing red warnings. "What is this?" she asked her assistant. "Human com traffic has dropped to 0, Prime Thinker. All human vessels, stations, and colonies have gone dark." Valthara's light body flickered with surprise. Are they under attack? No, Prime Thinker. They appear to have simply stopped talking. On the Kavari homeworld, General Vekvar was having the same conversation with his intelligence staff. All human trade routes have gone silent, his aide reported. No shipping schedules, no cargo manifests, no pilot chatter. Engine problems? Vekvar suggested. No, sir. The ships are still moving. They're just not talking to anyone. The architects noticed it too. Unit Prime Nexus 7 calculated that 23% of all galactic communications had simply vanished. That was when they realized something important. Humans were everywhere, not just on their own worlds, not just on their own ships. They were woven into the fabric of galactic civilization like threads in a carpet. They managed shipping routes. They ran communication networks. They maintained computer systems. They mediated disputes. They fixed things that broke down, and now they were all silent. On the trading station at Kepler 442, the alien merchants suddenly realized that their human staff had quietly left during the night shift. All of them. The cargo that was supposed to be loaded onto ships heading for the inner systems was still sitting in the warehouse, on the diplomatic world of New Geneva. Human translators and mediators had simply walked away from ongoing peace negotiations between two minor species. The talks ground to a halt because nobody else could speak both languages. On research stations throughout the galaxy, human scientists and engineers had vanished from their posts. Projects that had been running for decades suddenly stopped working because the humans who understood the hybrid systems were gone. For the first time in 3 centuries, the galaxy could hear itself without human voices in the background. It was much quieter than anyone had expected, and much more frightening. Back on Earth, Admiral Chun watched the reports coming in from across human space. Every human ship, station, and colony had gone dark exactly on schedule. 10,000 military vessels had simply vanished from galactic sensors. 1 million civilian ships had stopped broadcasting their positions. Most importantly, the humans scattered throughout alien society had quietly extracted themselves. They had done it politely, professionally, without causing any immediate problems, but the problems would start soon. Sean looked at his tactical display. The Devourers were still eating their way through system after system. The Galactic Concord was still having meetings about meetings, and humanity was no longer asking for permission. Sir, his aide said quietly, we're getting reports from the outer colonies. The Devourers have entered human space. Chun nodded. How long until they reach New Tokyo? 72 hours, sir. 3 days. The same 3 days the Galactic Concord needed to form their preliminary committee to discuss thinking about a response. Chun pressed the final button on his console. All units, this is Admiral Wu. Execute Phase 2. Show them what humans do when nobody is watching. In the empty space between stars, ships that didn't exist began to move toward a battle that would change everything. The galaxy was about to learn that sometimes the quietest species is the most dangerous one. The Devourer swarm had eaten 29 star systems when Captain Liu Zhang decided it was time to stop hiding. His ship, the HSS Persistence, had been floating in non-existence for 2 days. Around him, his crew worked quietly at stations that officially didn't exist. They were all volunteers. Every human ship in the operation was crewed by volunteers. No one had been ordered to fight the Devourers. Everyone had chosen to. Captain, said his tactical officer, we're in position. The processing station is dead ahead. Liu looked at the main screen. The Devourer station was huge, the size of a small moon. Its surface crawled with machines that never stopped moving. They were tearing apart asteroids, planets, anything they could find, turning it all into more machines, more death. Any signs they've detected us? Liu asked. No, sir. As far as they know, we were never built. Lou nodded. The tactical non-existence technology was perfect, but it only worked as long as they didn't shoot at anything. The moment they fired a weapon, they would become real again, and then the Devourers would try to kill them. Open a channel to Dr. Kim on Luna Base. Lou ordered. Sarah Kim's face appeared on the screen. She looked tired but excited. Captain Liu, are you ready? As ready as we'll ever be. Is the package complete? Kim smiled. It was not a nice smile. Oh yes, 3 centuries of studying their technology, and we finally figured out their weakness. Which is, they're too smart. Their decision-making process is perfect. Every choice they make is the absolutely correct one, based on all available data. They never guess. They never take chances. They never do anything that doesn't make perfect sense. Lou frowned. How is that a weakness? Because humans are very good at not making sense. We've created something that will teach them to doubt themselves, to hesitate, to make the same kind of beautiful, stupid mistakes that humans make every day. Kim's smile got wider. We're going to teach them to be human, and it's going to drive them crazy. Lou understood. The Devourers processed information faster than light could travel. They made decisions in nanoseconds. But they had never learned to deal with uncertainty, with chaos, with the kind of thinking that jumped from A to Q without stopping at the letters in between. Upload the package, Lou said. Already done. It's in your communications array. Just broadcast it directly into their processing center. Lou turned to his communications officer. You heard the lady. Send our gift to the Devourers. Yes, sir. Broadcasting now. The signal went out. Not weapons fire. Not an attack. Just a simple data transmission. The kind of thing that happened millions of times every day across the galaxy. This data was special. It was a virus built from human chaos mathematics and 3 centuries of studying how other species thought. It was designed to infect the Devourers. Perfect logical processes with something they had never encountered before. The ability to doubt. The effect was immediate. On the station's surface, machines that had been moving with perfect efficiency suddenly stopped for just a moment. Just long enough to consider whether tearing apart that particular asteroid was really the best choice. That moment of doubt spread through the collective consciousness like wildfire. Lou watched his sensors as the station's energy output fluctuated. It's working. They're confused. All ships, came Admiral Singh's voice over the comm. Execute Operation Tabula Rasa. Show them what human warfare really looks like. Across 12 sectors, the human fleet stopped hiding. One moment, the space around 37 Devourer-held systems was empty. The next moment, it was full of human ships that had never officially existed. The ships didn't attack in the way that other species expected. They didn't form battle lines or use standard tactics. They did something that the Galaxy's military experts said was impossible. They improvised. Captain Sarah Okafor materialized her destroyer inside a Devourer factory ship and immediately started broadcasting human music at full volume. Not as a weapon. Just because she thought it might confuse them. It did. Commander James Park appeared next to a processing facility and began transmitting human poetry. Love poems, limericks, haikus about cats. The Devourer's perfect logic couldn't understand why anyone would send artistic data during a battle. It broke their decision trees. Admiral Singh herself took her battleship directly into the heart of the largest Devourer swarm and began broadcasting something that no artificial intelligence could comprehend. Human children laughing, the sound of kids playing in a park, giggling at silly jokes, making up games with rules that changed every 5 minutes. The Devourers tried to analyze it, to find the pattern, to understand the strategic purpose. There was none. It was just the sound of happiness, and it drove them insane. But the humans weren't just confusing the Devourers. They were killing them. Each human ship carried weapons that shouldn't have existed. Devices built from studying every alien technology for 300 years. Weapons that used Zephyrian energy manipulation to turn matter into pure force. Shields based on Kavari hive mind networking that shared damage across multiple ships. Targeting systems that used architect reality bending to hit targets that were in different dimensions. The Devourers had been built to fight conventional warfare. Fleet actions with predictable tactics and logical strategies. They had no idea how to fight humans. Captain Liu watched as his weapons tore through the processing station's defenses. But he wasn't just destroying it. His ship was doing something else. Something the humans had learned from watching the Devourers themselves. They were converting every piece of Devourer technology that his weapons touched changed. Instead of turning matter into more war machines, it started turning matter into something else. Playgrounds, parks, art galleries, libraries full of human books. The Devourers watched in horror as their perfect war machines began creating things that served no logical purpose. Things that existed just to make people happy. "Sir," Liu's tactical officer reported, "the station is down. They've stopped all manufacturing operations." "Good. Move to the next target." Across the battle zone, the same thing was happening. Human ships appeared, confused the Devourers with impossible behavior, destroyed their facilities, and converted their technology into something beautiful. The battle lasted 4 hours. The cleanup took 6 minutes. When the last Devourer construct dissolved into atoms, the human fleet didn't celebrate. They had work to do. Admiral Singh's ships began the systematic restoration of the destroyed systems. They rebuilt communication networks. They reseeded dead worlds with new life. They established refugee processing centers for the millions of survivors. They did it efficiently, professionally, without fanfare. On Nexus Prime, the Galactic Concord was still in session. They had been debating for 3 weeks whether to form a committee to study the possibility of taking action. Velthara was in the middle of a speech about the importance of patience when her aide interrupted. "Prime Thinker, we're receiving reports from the Devourer-affected systems." "Yes?" Velthara said impatiently. "Have they established contact? Are they willing to negotiate?" "No, Prime Thinker. The reports say the Devourers are gone." The room went silent. "Gone?" General Lekvar clicked his mandibles in confusion. "What do you mean, gone?" "Destroyed, sir. All of them. 37 systems have been cleared and are undergoing restoration. Unit Prime Nexus 7 processed this information at maximum speed. Clarification requested. Which combined fleet accomplished this operation?" The aide looked uncomfortable. "There was no combined fleet, sir. The operation was conducted entirely by human forces." The silence stretched on for a full minute. "That's impossible," Velthara said finally. "Humans don't have the technology or the tactical expertise for such an operation. With respect, Prime Thinker, the sensor logs are very clear. Human ships appeared in all 37 systems simultaneously, eliminated the Devourer presence, and began immediate restoration efforts." Velthara's light body flickered with emotions she couldn't name. "How many human casualties?" "None reported, Prime Thinker." "How long did the operation take?" 4 hours and 17 minutes, Prime Thinker." The room erupted in voices. Angry clicks from the Kavari, electronic music from the architects, the sound of crystal breaking from the Zephyrians. They had been debating for 3 weeks. Humans had solved the crisis in 4 hours. Without permission, without oversight, without a single request for help. On Earth, Admiral Chun watched the reports coming in from across the galaxy. Every human ship was accounted for. Every mission had succeeded. The galaxy was safe, and now the galaxy knew the truth. Humans weren't the helpless children that everyone thought they were. They were the species that saved the galaxy, while everyone else was talking about it. Chun's aide approached his desk. "Sir, we're receiving communication requests from every major species. They want explanations." Chun leaned back in his chair. "Tell them we'll be happy to explain everything, as soon as they're ready to listen to us as equals instead of children." "And if they're not ready?" Chun smiled. "Then they can keep talking. We've got galaxies to save." The Zephyrian delegation arrived at Earth like angry gods coming to punish mortals. Their ships were made of pure light that hurt to look at. They moved through space without engines, bending reality around them like it was made of clay. When they spoke, their voices sounded like music played on instruments made of starlight. They were beautiful, terrible, ancient. And they were furious. Prime Thinker Valthara led the delegation to Luna Station. She brought representatives from the Kavari and the Architects, the most powerful beings in the galaxy, coming to demand answers from the species they still thought of as children. Admiral Chun Wu met them in Conference Room 7. It was a simple room with white walls and a plain table. No fancy decorations. No impressive technology on display. Just a place where people could sit and talk. Chun brought 3 people with him. Ambassador Vasquez, who had started it all. Dr. Sarah Kim, who had figured out how to break the Devourers. And a quiet woman in a simple gray suit who was introduced only as Director Park. The aliens didn't know that Director Park was the most dangerous person in the room. Maybe the most dangerous person in the galaxy. Admiral Wu, Valthara began, her voice crackling with controlled anger. "You will explain immediately how humanity acquired technologies that exceed your species' authorized capabilities." Her light body pulsed with colors that meant she was trying very hard not to incinerate. Everyone in the room, General Thekvar's 6 arms, clicked against the table. The Galactic Accords specifically forbid probationary species from developing certain classes of weapons. You have violated agreements that date back 3 centuries. Unit Prime Nexus 7 spoke in perfectly modulated tones. Additionally, your unauthorized military action circumvented established crisis management protocols. This represents a significant breach of galactic law. Chun listened quietly. So did his 3 companions? They let the aliens speak. Let them make their demands. Let them explain all the rules that humanity had broken. When the aliens finished, Director Park reached into her pocket. She pulled out a small device and placed it on the table. It looked like a simple tablet computer, the kind of thing humans had been using for centuries. "This shows your current military positions," she said conversationally. "All of them." The device projected a holographic display that filled half the room. It showed real-time positions of every Zephyrian lightship, every Kavari Hive cruiser, every Architect Pinstruct-vessel, including the ones they thought were hidden, including the ones in other dimensions, including the experimental ships that officially didn't exist. Velthara's light body dimmed with shock. "How did you? We've been watching for 300 years, Director Park said calmly. Learning, recording, understanding. The display changed. Now it showed detailed technical specifications. Complete blueprints of Zephyrian phase technology. Full documentation of Kavari hive mind communication systems. Comprehensive analyses of architect reality manipulation capabilities. These are your technologies, Director Park continued. All of them. Including the research projects you haven't told each other about. General Thekvar's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme distress. This information is classified at the highest levels. It's impossible for humans to have. Nothing is impossible, Dr. Kim interrupted. You just have to be willing to work for it. The display changed again. This time it showed economic data, resource flows, population distributions, industrial capacity analyses, trade routes, financial networks. Information about every major civilization in the galaxy. This is your complete societal structure, Director Park said. We know how many children you have, what they're studying, what careers they'll probably choose. We know your birth rates, your death rates, your economic cycles. We know which of your leaders are corrupt and which ones are honest. We know your military strengths and your hidden weaknesses. She paused. We know everything about you. We have known for centuries. The room was completely silent. Even the background hum of the station's life support systems seemed to have stopped. Unit Prime. Nexus 7 was the first to speak. Why? Because you treated us like children, Ambassador Vasquez said quietly. You gave us the lowest seats at your table. You dismissed our ideas. You ignored our warnings. You acted like we were too stupid and too young to understand the galaxy. So we decided to prove you wrong, Admiral Chon added. Quietly, carefully, without you noticing. Director Park touched the device again. The display changed to show a timeline. 300 years of human development. Not the official history that the aliens knew about. The real history, not the secret history. Year 5. We reverse-engineered our first piece of Zephyrian technology, a simple phase shifter from a damaged transport. Year 12. We cracked the basic Kavari hive mind communication protocols. Year 27. We built our first architect-inspired reality manipulation device. The timeline continued. Decade after decade of quiet progress. Humans stealing, studying, and improving every alien technology they encountered. By year 50, we had theoretical frameworks for technologies you hadn't invented yet. By year 100, we had working prototypes of weapon systems beyond your current capabilities. By year 200, we had strategic plans for every possible galactic crisis scenario. Director Park looked directly at Vilthara. By year 250, we could have conquered the entire galaxy if we had wanted to. But you didn't, Vilthara said. Her voice was barely a whisper. No, Chon said. We didn't. Because conquest was never the goal. Protection was the goal. We wanted to be ready for threats like the Devourers. Which you ignored, Dr. Kim added. For 3 weeks, you ignored them. While people died, you held meetings about meetings. General Vekvar's 6 arms trembled. If you possess such capabilities, why did you wait? Why didn't you act immediately? Because we hoped you would listen to us, Vasquez said. For 3 centuries, we hoped that eventually you would see us as partners instead of pets. We tried to work within your system. We followed your rules. We waited for your permission. But you never gave it, Director Park said. You never even considered that we might have something valuable to contribute. The holographic display changed one. More time. Now it showed the Devourer crisis. The real timeline. The moment when the first system fell to the machines. The 17 systems that died while the Galactic Concord debated. The 37 systems that were saved when humanity finally stopped asking for permission. The question isn't what humanity is capable of, Admiral Chon said, leaning forward. Slightly. The question is what we're going to do about the fact that we've been pretending to be harmless, while actually becoming your technological superiors. The silence that followed was deeper than space itself. Unit Prime Nexus 7 spoke first. His voice had changed. Gone was the condescending tone. Gone was the assumption of superiority. What do you want? Chun smiled. That's the first intelligent question anyone has asked us in 300 years. We want partnership, Vasquez said. Real partnership. Not the kind where you pat us on the head and tell us to sit quietly while the adults work. We want respect, Dr. Kim added. The kind that comes from understanding that different species solve problems in different ways. And we want change, Director Park finished. The galaxy is a dangerous place. The Devourers were just the beginning. There will be other threats, worse threats. And when they come, we need to be ready to act quickly. Velthara's light body flickered through several color patterns. Confusion, fear, something that might have been hope. And if we refuse? She asked. Chun shrugged. Then you refuse. We're not going to force you to change. We're not going to conquer anyone or impose our will on the galaxy. But, Director Park said quietly, we're also not going to pretend to be weak anymore. The next time there's a crisis, we'll handle it ourselves. With or without your approval. General Vekvar's mandibles clicked slowly. You're threatening us. No, Chun said. We're informing you. There's a difference. Unit Prime Nexus 7 processed. This for several seconds. You are offering to share your capabilities in exchange for equal status within the galactic community. That's correct, Vasquez confirmed. And if we maintain current hierarchical structures, then you maintain them without us, Dr. Kim said simply. We'll protect ourselves and anyone who asks for our help. You can handle everything else, however. You want. Another long silence. Finally, Velthara spoke. We need time to consider this. Of course, Chun said. Take all the time you need. But while you're considering, remember one thing. Yes, the Devourers are gone. 37 star systems are rebuilding. Billions of people are alive who would be dead if we had waited for your permission. Chun stood up. Results matter more than protocols, and humans get results. The meeting was over. As the alien delegation prepared to leave, Velthara turned back to Director Park. How long, she asked, have you been planning this conversation? Director Park smiled. Since the day we joined the Galactic Concord. We knew. Eventually, you would need to see us as equals. We just didn't know it would take 300 years. And if we had continued to treat you as children, then eventually you would have learned the hard way that children grow up. And when they do, Admiral Chun added, they stop asking their parents for permission. 6 months later, Elena Vasquez stood in the same meeting hall on Nexus Prime. But everything was different now. The room looked the same. The floating Zephyrians still glowed with inner light. The Kavari still clicked their mandibles when they spoke. The architects still hummed with electronic voices, but they were looking at her differently. For the first time in 300 years, they were looking at a human and seeing an equal. The Treaty of Terra Nova is now in effect, announced Unit Prime Nexus 7. His voice carried none of the old condescension. All member species are granted equal status within the Galactic Council, regardless of age or previous classification. Elena nodded. It had taken 6 months of negotiation, but they had done it. The galaxy's ancient hierarchy was gone. In its place was something new, something better, something that judged species by what they could do, not how old they were. The new crisis response protocols are also approved, added General Vekvar. His 6 arms moved in patterns that meant respect instead of amusement. When facing existential threats, any member species may act independently, provided they accept responsibility for their actions. Prime Thinker Velthara spoke next. Her light body pulsed with colors. Elena had learned meant genuine friendship. The joint research initiatives have exceeded all expectations. Human chaos mathematics combined with our energy manipulation techniques have solved stellar engineering problems we had been working on for centuries. Elena smiled. That's what happens when you let different species work together instead of keeping them separated by artificial barriers. The changes went far beyond politics and protocols. They went to the heart of how the galaxy thought about problems. Dr. Sarah Kim now led the Galactic Technology Integration Project from her new lab on Kepler Station. Zephyrian researchers worked alongside human scientists, combining energy manipulation with chaos theory. The results were extraordinary. They could repair damaged stars in years instead of millennia. They could terraform dead worlds in decades instead of centuries. Admiral Singh commanded the new Galactic Rapid Response Force. Her ships included volunteers from every species. Kavari Hive cruisers worked in perfect coordination with human destroyers. Architect reality benders provided support for Zephyrian light ships. The fleet could respond to any crisis in any part of the galaxy within 72 hours. They had already used these capabilities twice. A plague outbreak on the rim worlds that was contained in days instead of months. A stellar collapse in the Andorian sector that was prevented entirely. But Director Park remained officially non-existent. Her influence could be felt in the new intelligence sharing agreements that prevented surprises like the Devourers. Every species contributed data. Every species watched for threats. Nobody would be caught unprepared again. There is one more matter, Valthara said, the memorial. Elena nodded. They had built a monument in the space where the first Devourer system had been destroyed. Not a monument to human victory. A monument to the billions who had died while the galaxy argued about how to save them. The inscription was simple. They died while we debated. We must do better. The memorial will be dedicated next week, General Likvar said. All species are invited to attend. Good, Elena said. It's important to remember the cost of inaction. But the real changes were smaller, more personal. Helena's daughter Maria was now studying at the Galactic Engineering Academy alongside young Zephyrians, Kavari, and architects. They worked together on projects that none of their species could have completed alone. They spoke each other's languages. They shared each other's ideas. They were growing up in a galaxy where being different was seen as an advantage, not a problem. Captain Liu Zhang had been promoted to admiral. His new ship, the HSS Unity, carried a crew that represented every major species. They had solved 3 different first contact situations in the past month, using human improvisation combined with alien wisdom to find peaceful solutions. Dr. Kim's teenage son had invented a new form of art that combined human music with Zephyrian light painting and Kavari scent harmonics. It was impossible to describe and impossible to ignore. Galleries across the galaxy were displaying his work. Even the language was changing. Galactic Standard now included human words that had no alien equivalents. Improvise, adapt, overcome. Concepts that other species were learning to value. There is one thing I'm curious about, Valthara said to Elena as the meeting wound down. Your people could have revealed their capabilities at any time. You could have demanded equal treatment centuries ago. Why did you wait? Elena thought about that. Because forcing change and inspiring change are different things. We could have conquered the galaxy. But conquering doesn't create real partnerships. It just creates new hierarchies with different people on top. But the Devourer crisis finally forced your hand. Yes, because there comes a point where principles have to give way to saving lives. We tried to work within your system for as long as we could. But when people were dying and you wouldn't act, we couldn't wait anymore. Unit Prime Nexus 7 made a sound like electronic contemplation. You chose the moment when your actions would be seen as heroic rather than aggressive. Elena shrugged. We chose the moment when our actions would save the most lives. The politics were secondary. But not unimportant, General Likvar observed. No, Elena admitted. Not unimportant. We knew that if we acted during the crisis, you would have to acknowledge our capabilities. And once you acknowledge them, you would have to decide whether to treat us as enemies or partners. And you gambled that we would choose partnership. We hoped. But we were prepared for either choice. Valthara's light body flickered with what Elena now recognized as amusement. You're still planning several moves ahead, aren't you? Elena smiled. Director Park would probably say that good planning never stops. But I think we're past the point where we need to plan against each other. The galaxy has bigger problems than our political disagreements, such as the Devourers came from somewhere. They were created by someone or something. We stopped them, but we haven't found their source. That's still out there. The room went quiet. It was true. The Devourers had appeared from beyond the galactic rim. Something had built them. Something that might build more of them. The joint investigation is ongoing. Unit Prime Nexus 7 reported. Human chaos analysis combined with our computational power has identified several possible origin points. And when we find the source? General Lekvar asked. Then we'll deal with it, Elena said simply. Together, as partners. The way it should have been from the beginning. As the meeting ended, and the representatives began to leave, Velthara approached Elena privately. I owe you an apology, the Zephyrian said. For 3 centuries, I treated your species as children. I thought age meant wisdom. I thought patience was always better than action. And now? Now I think wisdom comes from knowing when to wait. And when to act. Your people taught us that sometimes the most important decision is the decision to stop talking and start doing. Elena nodded. And your people taught us that some problems require patience and careful thought. We're both right. The trick is knowing which approach fits which situation. Partnership, Velthara mused. Different strengths working together instead of competing. That's the idea. As Elena prepared to leave, she received a message on her personal communicator. It was from her son David, who is serving on a research station in the Outer Rim. Mom, we found something. It's not Devourer technology. It's something else. Something new. We need the rapid response team here as soon as possible. Elena showed the message to Velthara. Another crisis? The Zephyrian asked. Maybe, or maybe just another opportunity to prove that the new system works. Elena activated her emergency communicator. This is Ambassador Vasquez. Patch me through to Admiral Singh and the Rapid Response Command. Within minutes, ships from 4 different species were changing course toward David's station. Human improvisation, Zephyrian energy manipulation, Kavari coordination, architect reality bending. All working together. Elena smiled as she watched. The tactical display. 6 months ago, it would have taken weeks to organize a response. Committees would have been formed. Protocols would have been debated. Permission would have been requested and denied, and requested again. Now, ships were moving within hours. Different species working together without argument or hesitation. Ambassador, came Admiral Singh's voice over the comm. We'll reach the station in 18 hours. Should we wait for Galactic Council authorization? Elena didn't hesitate. Negative. Investigate and respond as needed. Report back when you have something concrete. Understood. Sing out. Velthara's light body pulsed with something that might have been pride. No committees, no debates. Number. Requests for permission. No, Elena agreed. Just people doing what needs to be done. Later that day, Elena stood in her office, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, human ships were flying alongside alien vessels toward an unknown threat. They would face it together, as equals, as partners, as a family. Her communicator chimed, a message from Director Park. New threat has been identified and contained. No casualties. Team coordination was flawless. The galaxy is learning to work together. Well done. Elena smiled and typed back a simple reply. We all did well. This is what the Galax